Okay, thank you for everybody who is able to come tonight. Um, I will go ahead and start us in prayer. Yeah, no need to, if you don't want to show your video, not a big deal. But hi, Rose. All right, please join me in prayer. Um, Most beloved Heavenly Parent, thank you so much for this new year and yeah, for your perseverance and never once giving up on us, Heavenly Parent. And I pray that as we're, especially sisters and many mothers coming together, really pray that we can welcome you in this space, especially your motherly spirit, because all of us here are gathered because we want to understand the fullness of your essence, Heavenly Parent, and the fullness of true parents, and especially mother's heart at this time, and what our role is as women in this church and in this movement and in the world at this time. And so I truly pray, God, that you can speak and be heard and reveal pieces to each of us tonight that can lay firm groundwork, Heavenly Parent, for us fulfilling our responsibility in our growth, with families, and in the wider society, Heavenly Parent. So, really want to welcome you in this space, and I want to offer all these things in the name of David and Kaylee Moffat, Blood Central Family, Jill. Thank you, ladies. When when I was praying with my kids, we're reading these interesting kids' Bibles. Um, It's not like a traditional Bible, it's like a different book for each book of the Bible. They sometimes group it together. And last night we read their explanation of Noah's course and what the rainbow really symbolized. And I don't know, like both David and I we read it and like almost like burst into tears. It was so surprising. Of course, my kids didn't totally get it. But yeah, the reason why I'm sharing it is because, when you read the actual quotes of the Bible, it's basically God's regret over the flood, right? Of having to do the flood and having to kill all of his children um, because things had gotten so bad. And so the rainbow is a symbol that that will never happen again, and that that God would never give up on us again, no matter how bad it got. So that's coming on strong for me tonight, and um, those of you who are here for a good one because, yeah, in the last few months, I have been reading, going back to Mother's Anthology, and I've been really looking at the dates of speeches from Mother, and particularly the speeches that she gave soon after Father passed. And it's very interesting to see what she was trying to do in the first year or two after Father passed, what she was talking about, and the way that she was talking. And I can see over time, it's kind of like she realized, wow, these guys don't get it. They don't understand what I'm talking about. And so I have to reel it back a little bit. I have to find a new way to help them understand who I am and probably how frustrated she was that people didn't respond to her in the way that they responded to Father. And so even many times in her speeches, she has to reference Father, like, remember, this is what you did for Father, and this is what you have to do now. This doesn't change, even though Father has passed. So yeah, I want to read some of those excerpts and yeah, no worries if you're putting kids to sleep, please don't. It's fine. I understand and I'm happy to just be able to share. Sorry, I'm still overcoming something. It's been several weeks of all of this. Okay, so let me pull up these readings. Okay, so I have a few of them and I'll stop and share as we go. And then definitely we're going to open it up for some conversation because I'd be really curious about people's insights and their reflections on some of these things. So this one is from 2012. Um, Sorry, this is obvious. Is wrong. Let me find out the actual date here. So, because I think the dates are really important. Uh, okay, I'll have to look it up, but it is in 2012, so really soon after her father's passing. Okay, here we go. She says, your father began many projects based on both spiritual and practical considerations. It is my responsibility to bring them all under control, to organize them well, and to refine them. There are so many things for us to do in following the word. Unfortunately, however, when it comes to those who should lead the Unification Church in the future, we have failed to fulfill our responsibility. We have allowed many second generation members to drift away. I am in a position where I must take full responsibility for the present reality. My position is not an easy one, as I need to deal with issues both on the inside and the outside. It is easy to build a new house. In contrast, fixing, repairing, and improving an old house that used to be occupied takes twice as much effort and money. That is the job I have taken on. Therefore, each and every one of you should, I'm sorry, help me out by fulfilling your given responsibility. And I mean, it's like, it's very interesting to read that, right? And I can put myself in Mother's shoes. I can imagine what it must have felt for her to take on the whole movement after Father's passing and to see all the problems in the movement and what it must have felt like. Okay, now she's fully responsible for it. And from the very beginning, one of her aches was about, the younger generation, many of our generation, who she's saying, the elder members failed in our responsibility. That many of us have drifted away, but that mother has to take responsibility for that. And what's interesting is, she very soon after started investing into like UPA and the Pyongyang scholarships and different things like that because she immediately wanted to carve out a pathway for young people to be raised up. And right now in the Providence, she's very excited because this whole wave of second generation who are just graduating are about to go on their mission courses right now, including two of her great grandchildren, her grandchildren. And she's excited because these are young people who they walked the path that she kind of created. But it all came out of her recognition of how much, we were failed. And, this piece here where Mother talks about the analogy of fixing and repairing a house versus building a brand new house is, yeah, very painful and also something I can relate to what it's like to come into an organization that has a long, long history and has certain expectations and old things that are very hard to get rid of, including leaders who have been in positions for a long time who are used to things a certain way and feel, they have the authority and things like that. And so that's what it was like for Mother. Like, I mean, for her to feel like the house of our movement is not her house that she's proud of, that she could help build and beautify, but instead she had to inherit a house that she has to fix up and repair and improve. Is kind of shocking. Yeah. And what's even more shocking is she said this at the very beginning, right after Father passed, how much she had been waiting for people to understand. And later as she starts talking, you realize people couldn't receive it. She had to hold back and not speak as boldly as she really wanted to. Um, until we this time with the rebirth workshop and things like that, that we really understood a lot more about what Mother has been wanting to say. This one is from 2016, so a few years later. She says, that is why there are many things I must do, and I need your help. I receive strength because of you. While I am still here, I hope we can achieve many things and hear Heavenly Parents say, thank you for becoming one with True Mother and realizing my dream. there's another paragraph, but I just want to pause because this part is what I wanted to recognize and resonate. She says, I receive strength because of you. And it's like a really, it's a humble thing to say as a leader, and it's like such an honest thing to say as a leader too. Like I receive strength because of this kind of group, right? These kind of women who come together. But but mother's saying that to us, and like we have to remember that us showing up and us being one in heart is what gives her strength to keep going. So making these kinds of offerings and conditions of looking at her words and really trying to resonate with her heart is even just that is one of the most important things we could be doing. She continues and says, we can no longer delay further in dealing with this urgent reality. You must feel the urgency of what we are facing. In God's providence, postponing dealing with these matters until tomorrow is not an option. We must succeed today. I pray that you can all become proud filial sons or daughters and loyal citizens, Chanoguk soldiers that will liberate heavenly parents and true parents' desperate hearts. And the reason why I included this section too is because now I'm feeling so clearly the urgency of Mother's words and how serious she is about the limited time she has on earth. But she's been talking about this urgency for many, many years. And I don't know that we ever really got it, that we really ever understood it, that we had access to Mother. I mean, at this time was like, I remember in our church, we were just beginning to have access to Mother, right? A little bit more and starting to feel her spirit. Um, but even then, she was talking about how urgent the time it is that we're living in. This one is from 2013. And yeah, the next few ones are specifically about the role of women. And before I read that, I had to put on this sweater. This was the sweater that was, gifted from Mother through the Dunkleys because when I start to like put the pieces together, I can see if we could, sometimes when Mother speaks and does things, you have to really read between the lines and try to understand why she does things. She can't always say everything as clearly as she would want to say them because like I was saying before, people can't receive it, they can't understand it, it creates division. But Mother's gifting of sweaters to women in the United States to me is one of the most clear messages that we could ever ask from her. And we shouldn't need any other sign or speech or quote from her to back up how desperate she is to see women standing up, especially in America. And why America is because we have the most freedom, especially out of, these stronger nations, Korea, Japan. The culture for women is not the same in America. And in America, there is this equality where there's no reason why a woman can't also lead, can't also step up. Whereas in the other countries, there's a cultural aspect that makes that very difficult, 10 times, 100 times more difficult. So we're actually very lucky. And so for a mother to give sweaters, whether or not one was gifted to you as a person, it doesn't actually matter because it was her message to women. And especially, I know she's thinking about younger women, our generation of women, that these sweaters were gifted with the responsibility of wear these when you go out witnessing, right? And that means many different things. But I thought it was interesting that, this was the first real act that the Dunkleys conducted when they first came to America. This was their first, not appointment, but like decision that was made. And it was 100% in line with Mother's urgency about what needs to happen in America. So I want to preface just these readings with the right now, right? That was only like 7 months ago that those sweaters were given, and I'm not sure that all of them have been given out yet. I'm not sure why, but Yeah, it's the clearest message from mother, and we shouldn't need any other validation about how much she's waiting to see us step up. So this speech is from 2019 in January. She says, "You need to know how important the role of a mother is. From now on, you should carry out the mission of a mother rather than a daughter. We should give birth to and raise children. Father built a huge house, and now we have to put things in order and make it presentable. That is our responsibility. Nowadays, medical facilities are so well equipped that there are even treatments that can cure cancer. However, we've been living in an unpredictable environment. Recently, natural disasters have become severe. This has been happening around the world. Nobody knows when and how things will turn out. You are in blessed positions. When you go to the spirit world after having accomplished your responsibility, who would welcome you first in heaven? How great would it be if Father came to meet you and said, "Finally, you have come. Thank you for your great dedication and hard work in attending True Mother. I remember you." Will you work with such a determination? If so, I have no further words. In fact, after Father Sungha's ceremony, I have not been able to sleep deeply. I think this is from my character. When I start something, I can't sleep without concluding it and putting things in order. But by seeing you today, I realize that I am not alone. I felt I have pillars who can receive my will and work with me. I have my younger sisters. I have my daughters. Women have the capacity to embrace all people. A woman, especially a mother, is like a bowl with the capacity to embrace men, women, children, and the whole. Nobody can change that. According to Father, children inherit 99.999% from their mothers. If a sperm does not meet the ovum, they can't fulfill its mission. When I think of this, I am left thinking, did God really love women to such a degree? Women who are such precious beings, however, haven't been treated well throughout history. Hence, we must find our positions to the truth in our results. You must have the following determination. We women will embrace and witness to all people and bring them to be Chanokuk citizens. Okay, I mean, I probably could have paused in a few moments here in each of these, but the first one, I have to like try to think who's mother talking to in these situations. We don't know, like we don't know the context of it. We know it's in the Chunjungun, and there's probably many men in the audience too. I don't know. Maybe it was a group of women, but I kind of doubt it at that point. But she early on, like thinking about the timeline, this is 2013. She's identifying that the role of the mother is so important. And again, she's using this house analogy that Father built this house, and it's a big house, it's a big dream, but it's our job as women to now make this house presentable, to make the house into a home, which is something only women can do. And I think one of the things that makes me really sad in this paragraph is she, I think she must feel like she has to remind people about Father for them to be able to receive it. She says, "How great would it be if Father came to meet you and said, finally you have to come?" Because she talks about, she says, Father says, "Thank you for attending True Mother. I remember you." But it's like she feels like my sense is that she feels like she had to back it up with Father because she wasn't really understood and received as a woman in her own right and in her own role, and because she's graceful and majestic, she doesn't have a problem with doing that, right? With swallowing some of the pain that maybe comes up with that and the frustration and being able to still work through difficult situations. When she's so honest, she says, after Father Sunwa, I have not been able to sleep because she needs to put things in order. She's the worried mom like us who's staying up at night, worried about all the things that need to be done, preparing for your children for the next day. This is how Mother feels about us and about the world. This one in particular is like so shocking and humbling and something we have to engrave in our hearts about how she feels about us. She says, by seeing you today, I realized I'm not alone. I felt I have pillars who can receive my will and work with me. And especially, I have my younger sisters, I have my daughters. And like going back to the whole sweater point, right? I feel like the giving of sweaters was like this anthem call to True Mother's daughters, to her sisters, saying, please, I need you. I need you to stand with me. I need to feel strength through you. I need to feel I have my sister supporting me because we know there's a difference in feeling supported by your sisters than there is by your brothers. There is a sisterhood there that is very heavenly and divine, and Mother doesn't get access to that. But now, what's interesting is if you watch the New Year's prayer vigil that happened, the people that are now representing Mother are two women, and it's always them surrounding Mother. They're the ones who are speaking on behalf of Mother if Mother doesn't make a speech. And it's very clear, right? To me, visually, these are all intentional decisions that she makes. That the two women spoke first, and then all the men spoke, all the men in these high-level leadership positions. And I think it's by design. Mother's making these kinds of requests by design, and we should pay attention to these little details because she is very intentional and very detailed. And I mean, I think many of you went to the rebirth workshop, which is when this concept of children inheriting 99.99% from their mothers came up. And it's something that I don't think anybody's actually figured out what that means and like what are the implications of such a concept. I think as women, we have inclinations about the significance of what that means, but even in the rebirth workshop, it's like you couldn't even scratch the surface on what that actually meant. And again, she backs it up with that Father said this, and she's trying to lift up her role and her position with Father again because people don't get it, and that's unfortunate, but she's willing to do it. But she's saying that Father said children inherit almost 100% from their mothers and just 0.001 from their fathers. If the sperm doesn't meet the egg, it can't fulfill its mission. I mean, what a funny line to say. And like, what does that imply? It's like if our brothers and the masculine side of our movement doesn't find its way to the egg, it can't fulfill its mission. I mean, it's like clear and also there's still so much questions about that. Like, what does that really mean? What does that mean for us? So she acknowledges, she says that God really loved women to such a degree to make us that important. But we don't feel that way. We're the ones who question ourselves. Women are the ones who have the doubt and the shame that comes up so much in our life. Men don't, I mean, they have that as well, but it's not at the same level. It's not as like deeply rooted in them. And it's because Mother's mentioning about how difficult it's been for women throughout history, how that essence of women, of Heavenly Mother, has just been pushed down and beaten and, you know, said that you're wrong over and over again. But even with that, Mother is saying that we women need to have determination. So even though it's hard and it's frustrating and we're not sure and we have many things going on, she's asking us that we need to make the determination to embrace and witness to all people because only we can do that. Only we women have this heart of being able to embrace all people, a bowl, being able to have a big enough heart to swallow and forgive. And that's really what motherhood does for you, right? You have no choice but to embrace difficult children and difficult spouses and whatever else is difficult in your life. And there's a grace to it that women are gifted because there's something that only women can do that the Heavenly Parent needs to come from us. All right, we've got a few more here. This is also from 2013, a few months later in April. And she says, I want to emphasize the role of the wives in our church. In the past, the people of Israel were able to survive during adversity because of the role played by the mothers and their families. That is, it was the mothers, wives, and daughters-in-law who carried on the tradition. Therefore, from now on, our church should encourage the wives and have them stand on the front line. This is 2013. Therefore, from now on, our church should encourage the wives and have them stand on the front line. Success or failure in completing Chanukuk depends on how we practice and take action in relation to those goals we have set for 2020. This is back when we were aiming for 2020. But the role of women in advancing toward those goals is important. This is not a time to remain a woman buried within the family, but to be a woman who can have life or death resolution to stand on the forefront of the providence for this providential goal. If we are unable to fulfill these goals, you will stand accused by your ancestors who went to the eternal world before you. That's that's a lot. That's a lot. And it's very strong, but it wakes you up, right? It shakes you up. I mean, she's saying in order to accomplish these goals in 2020, the role of women is important in advancing it. Did we really see the role of women during, I don't know, maybe a little bit, like starting to break through a little bit, but probably not at the level of Mother is talking and thinking about. But then she calls us out. And so I think this is something really important to pay attention to, that it's for me and all of us, it's easy to blame, our the men or the leadership or our church culture about like where are the women leaders. But Mother is calling us out. She's saying to us, this is not a time to remain a woman buried within the family. She's not saying sacrifice your family. She didn't say that. She didn't say ditch your children. She didn't say any of that. But to, she is saying it's not a time to only be buried within our family, but to be a woman who can have life or death resolution, to stand on the forefront of the providence for this providential goal. So she's asking us to do it all. She's asking us, yes, please take care of your family, but I do need you to do more. I do need you to go beyond just your family. Throughout history, we have seen all the model courses for both success and failures. There are lessons to be learned from history. Look at Israel today. Women join the army and fight equally alongside men in order to protect their nation. It is time for women to lead the way in saving the nation and the world. You must all know the responsibility of women is serious and important. So this is what she's saying back in 2013. And there's a few more quotes around that time where she's talking as straightforward as this, but then you don't see it as much. And I'm putting the pieces together, right? Realizing Mother felt like this couldn't be received, that people were not interested in it and there were blocks coming and whatever frustration with the leadership was coming. But many times, even in the Women's Fed 30th anniversary speech, Mother talks about the role of women in Israel and how women were the ones who carried on the tradition. Women, the mothers, were the reason that Israel was able to keep its identity as strong as it is. And again, this is what she says in 2013. She said the same thing in 2022. Sorry, my words. And so it's like she's holding on to these gems until people can really get it. I'm going to keep saying the same thing over and over again until people really get it and pay attention. There's one more quote that I wanted to read. Hold on. That I didn't put in my PowerPoint. Okay, I'll try to pull it up maybe during the sharing. But one of the things she says, she mentions Israel and the role of women again. And then she talks about um, the women in the unification movement should have the same kind of role, that it's our responsibility to strengthen our identity. And she said, I educated my daughters-in-law and my daughters that actually they have to be stronger than the men in the family. They have to be the ones who create the culture. So just re-emphasizing that actually women need to be stronger than, I mean, I hate to say it like that, right? It feels like I'm trying to create like a fight between men, but even Mother says that women need to be stronger than the men. Um, so, there's a lot to unpack there. And the last thing I want to share, then just open it up for people's reflections, and maybe you saw that picture pop up. But I just want to say that, like, I was appointed in this role in February last year. So it's been almost a year. And up until the very end of last year, it was a challenge. It was a challenge to kind of like, I resonate with the like an old house that I just needed to go room by room, right? And get rid of the old furniture and paint some of the walls and move things around and repurpose these rooms. That's how it felt. And it was a bit of like a constant long list of all the things I had to fix and improve and change and shift. But towards the end of the year, I felt a shift in my spirit world, like I had won the battle, almost like the image of like I had wrestled with the angel for the last 8 months and I came out on top and I could claim that identity, the new name of Israel, the new future. And I have felt that since that I don't want to like knock on wood, but feeling like this year, what we're creating is not going to be so difficult because it's really in line with Mother. It's really in line with what we're longing for. And it represents the the missing piece in our movement as a culture. And the reason why I have these pictures up is because this is really it. Like these women's groups that we're forming, these her tribes that are coming together. It's like every time I do it, I mean, I hate to say it, but it's like easy. It's like heaven is present and little bit of Mother's words and sharing our hearts. And always somebody tears up, right? Always people are sharing so deeply because they feel, wow, this is finally a space to be seen and heard, to be supported. Even just yesterday, this is the one that I did in my community, and Rika's here. Thanks for coming, Rika. And, it's like it is so meaningful to have sisterhood and supporting each other in our journey. So I feel like mm, I can very easily see what's going to happen this year very naturally. Not the feeling of like, I've been involved in many like mobilizations and mandates and all this kind of stuff. I've been involved in that, but it doesn't feel like that at all. It feels like very natural. I can see how much this will grow and answer some of the issues in our community. And also, I can see it seeping in to some of those challenges that are in our community. So I have so much hope for where we're going. And, yesterday with the DMV group, I was listening to everybody share and it like really hit me like, this is it. Like this is what Mother was looking for when she asked for a younger president for Women's Fed, is she was really wanting to see the younger women stepping up and connecting and a space being made for them to blossom and to grow and to finally feel like there's a space for my voice where I belong and I'm taken care of, and also grow to be able to feel like because of that, I want to contribute. Because of that, this is an avenue by which I do feel comfortable to reach out. I do feel like this is an environment that is safe for me to be able to share with others. And I got it, like I saw it, and it's like yeah, it's the dream coming true. So just want to thank everybody who's involved in that and supporting that. And I'm excited about where it's going to go this year. So that is my long sharing. But I would really, really love to hear people's just reflections, especially on mother's words, because I think there's so much to learn from each other. And also, please feel free to just share your own testimony of what's coming up for you in your life and how that relates. And yeah, so I'll just open it up, and whoever feels like sharing, no need to turn on your video if you're not comfortable, but feel free to share.
Can start. Thanks, Kaylee.
Thanks, Blanche.
I love this. I'm so grateful you're taking these opportunities with us, Kaylee, to, share your deep heart and insights around True Mother's words. It's a gift to find these words and then to share it with us and to really dive into particularly like what True Mother's saying to us as women. Um, because we can hear her words generally for all people, but it's very important, I think, to consider our unique reception of those words, yeah, as women. So I believe everybody knows I am in a crazy state of life right now. And I've received so much love from all of you. So I just want to say thank you for the love and for the support and for the prayers and for the encouragement and all the well wishes that are coming to me and Leighton and our kids, my family, from each of you. Um, I don't take it lightly or take it for granted. It means a lot. And obviously, in light of what I'm experiencing, um, I'm very I'm reflecting a lot about like the significance of the moment that I'm in my life and then the significance of the moment we're in the providence. Um, one of the interesting, I guess you could say, like outcomes of being diagnosed with a brain tumor 2.5 weeks ago, because it was only a few days ago that I learned that I had cancer, definitively. And so but it was 2.5 weeks ago that I learned I had a brain tumor, which could very well be cancerous. And it, put me into a serious state of, well, how do I want to live my life now? you know, and how do I want each day to go? And what occurred is really going into like a state of like every day has to be purposeful. Every day has to be meaningful. I have to if God gives me something to do or a person to contact or a prayer uh, to make, then I have to do that. And it's been amazing actually to live this way for 2.5 weeks with so much intention and purpose. And it's exhausting, but it's also very uh, powerful at the same time. And I've definitely felt the um, I don't know how else to say it. It's like God needs me, like God need like, and I felt that in the words you were saying today, Kayla, from True Mother. It's like she's not saying I need someone. She's like, I need you. I need you. This young woman in front of me, that's who I need. I need you. And uh, like you give me energy. Like you give me purpose. You give me hope that we can do this, together. And I remember distinctly, um, I don't know how many years ago it was now, but True Mother came to Las Vegas, and we were in her home uh, in Las Vegas in a small room, and she was speaking to a group of American, Japanese, and Korean leaders that had been gathered there. And I had I don't know. Sometimes I'm crazy, and I had pushed my way up to the front and managed to sit right in front of True Mother for this particular uh, speech that she was giving, which usually I don't do, but I did that, and it was fascinating experience because True Mother was speaking to me. It was very clear. There was an entire room full of Japanese, Korean, and American leaders, mostly men, and she was speaking to me. And her translator, like I could, he was Hyunuk. Everybody knows, or many of you may know Hyunuk. He's really amazing in terms of not just like conveying the words, but the heart of what True Mother is saying. So, one of the things I felt in that message from her at that time was the importance of the young people in America, and not just any young people, but like the righteous young people in America, and how she wanted to see this revolution in America led by these kinds of young, righteous young people, and me, as a part of that group. Um, and I felt also today, as we were listening to her words, also, by the way, 2013 was right when I began my mission with True Mother. So that was, True Mother's the reason I got into the Providence. True Mother's the reason I had the confidence to do the BFM position and to keep going when it was difficult, to not give up, to persevere in the face of a lot of misunderstanding or adversity, or anyway, lots of things. um, anyway, so I'm grateful that I could respond to her at that time, even without fully understanding all of what she needed. I feel like I understand better now the difficulties that True Mother was facing, um, especially after the rebirth workshop. But I guess what I'm really trying to just reflect on and connect to is, not taking ourselves for granted, and not being afraid to stand up and to do things when we feel called to do them, and to speak to our brothers, or to speak to anyone really, with confidence, with passion, with conviction, when there's something on our heart that we just know is true, and we just know we have to do. And I've done that in the last 2 weeks, and I'm really glad I did. And I plan to keep going, for whatever amount of time I have to go. And today I was like, well, what if God is just like tricking me? And, like I think I have a year, but I might actually have 50. Then, then what happens? Can I keep this going that long? I don't really know. But, but all I know is like, it's very interesting to be challenged to live life more intentionally, and with more conviction, with more passion, um, and just to consider my True Mother's heart and True Mother's challenges, and to feel like even in the face of my own, like there's something, there's something I uniquely bring to True Mother, to bring to the Providence. And I kind of feel desperate for more of the young people, more of the young women of our generation to stand up with confidence, with conviction, and really sort of say, like, we're not going to stand for certain things in this church anymore. And we're going to change the way we do things, because we don't, like, I don't want to live in a broken house. And I feel like I'm living in a broken house of our movement. And it's like, why? We don't have to. That's what your mother's saying. And she's like, I can't do this alone. She's been really clear. It's like, I'm one woman. I'm a really amazing woman, but I'm one woman in Korea. So I really need your help. Come on, ladies. Let's do this. Anyway, that's what I wanted to share. Thank you, Kayla.
Mm. Yeah, thank you, Cassandra. I know many people are really happy to hear from you. And Crescentia is the one who has been pushing me the most to not be afraid and to not hold back. Um, and that is, my own New Year's resolution is when I feel that what you're talking about, like that there's just something there that it's not just from me, it's not just my emotions, but it's something planted by heaven. And sometimes it's hard to figure out how to describe it, right? But to act on it, even if no one gets it, even if it creates confusion or difficulty, but to act on it the way that you're talking about. And I'm really grateful for Crescentia's crazy passion. You've always been that way, Crescentia. I mean,
Yeah.
you, yeah, I'm very grateful for that. And I think this is the year. I really feel that. So thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. You're welcome. Thanks, Kelly.
Thanks, Cynthia. I'll share because I gotta go in a few minutes, but yeah, thank you. It's really nice to see everybody. This is Remy. Remy is sleeping, but so he's my kind of companion these days. We just lay in bed all day long. I told
Love it.
Chris Kayla I would not have a shirt on today. Yeah, there's like a lot there, and thank you, Kayla, for like pulling all that out. Like, been sitting here recently being like, I want to read something from Mother, but um can't find something that just feels like it fits. Dinner's ready. Okay, I'll be right up. I'll be up in 3 minutes. Say hi to Mama's friends. Okay, she's not so happy. Okay, I'll be up in 3 minutes. Can you tell Papa? 3 minutes? I have to get dressed and I'll come right up. Okay. Okay, so I have 3 minutes. So I think the thing that Haley, I know you're upset that Mama's not coming right now, but I'll be there. You can wait for me. You can sit right here and wait for me. You can listen. Yeah, with Teddy. Here, come listen. So I think the thing that stood out to me the most, was the line that said, like, listen, look, there's Auntie Crescentia and Auntie Kaylee, Auntie Romina, and Mama's just gonna share a little bit, and then I'll come up for dinner. Well, that's Auntie Nina and her family. So the part of like, don't be daughters, but be mothers. And it's been really, I think I'm still processing, but for me, like that her saying that makes me think or reflect on like what would be the difference, like how would I act differently if I'm acting as her daughter versus acting as a mother beside her, right? And Kylie was born via emergency C-section and Remy was a VBAC, and the last month has been this really healing and transformative experience of what it means to be a mom. Yeah, what it means to be a mother, to like, I think I really struggled the first time around to feel like robbed of the experience of bringing a child into the world in the way that God had created us to be able to experience. And so I feel something really shifting in myself, in like my sense of who I am and who I am in relation to my children and who I am in relation to the unit of a family, having experienced having experienced birth in this different kind of way. And like the whole birthing experience was this one of like I remember when my water broke, just feeling like God was like, or like just feeling like your journey is to breathe life into the world. Like that's all you're doing. You're just breathing, and God is going to breathe Remy into the world through you. And it was this like, I don't know, really interesting surrendered experience of like, I wouldn't call the experience painful, but just this like incredible experience of how much power yeah, your body and God has in bringing a life into the world. And um yeah, and so like I feel like I yeah, I don't know the answer, but that's kind of what I took away from that reading is like, I thought a lot about, mother had both C-sections and she had um vaginal births, and she did it 13 times, and or 14 times, and like, yeah, and so like what does she mean when she asks us not to just stand as daughters but to stand as mothers, and what is the unique um I don't know, energy, perspective, or heart or strength that comes. Yeah, anyway, like somehow there's this shift in what I feel like it means to take ownership over my family and over my children. So that was the part that stood out to me the most. And the other line about, like not just getting it like in the circle of your family, but continuing to stand. But like Kayla mentioned, like she doesn't say sacrifice your children and your family. She just says don't get buried underneath laundry and dishes and stuff like that. And I'm like, yeah, well, I don't. Yeah, okay, well, that is battle number one. But um, yeah, so but it's at the same time very painful to read that these speeches were 10 years ago, and that I feel like I miss them and our movement missed them, and how different it would have been to have like caught these things when I was, in leadership roles or things like that. Like I felt like there was a different way of fighting to give mothers voice, but almost like I missed this too, right? And how different the last 10 years of rebuilding our house would have been if we would have caught this. Yeah, but like moms are like incredibly incredible. They can like multitask like a million times. So imagine like having 10 men trying to redo a house. Like, yeah, like if you have three women, you can do the work of 10 men multitasking and renovating a house, because you can think about everything at the same time while you're doing it too. So it's like, yeah, that's what I wanted to say. Okay, my daughter wants me to come to dinner and she's distraught that I am not. So I'm gonna go eat some food. I love you guys.
Thank you, Tasma.
Say
Thank you,
bye, Remy.
Yeah,
Tasa.
Mhm.
Oh, gosh, love
those were
you.
some really, really good insights. And I mean, yeah, the point about like what does it mean the difference between being a mother and a daughter, and there's a certain like responsibility and grace that comes with that, I think. Um, but your last line of yeah, three women could do 10 men's job is fascinating. And it makes me think also that like it's true. I think some of my frustration right now is like, why can't we see the problems? Right. But it's like we're stuck on like, okay, we're gonna do this little thing and that's gonna solve all the problems. But I feel like, nope, that's not gonna fix anything. Like that's not even gonna fix that problem. So why can't we see the bigger picture? But yeah, it's a really, really interesting insight. So thank you, Tasna, and being so freshly giving birth. That's a really holy place to be. So much deep insight comes there. Yeah, Romina,
Yes. Is Tasna still here? Well, I just want to say, Tasna, that the name of
she's
your
still here.
baby
Yeah.
is so beautiful, Remy. I love that. It's
Thank
so poetic and it's just so, yeah, it's like a holy name, I feel.
you, Remy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very beautiful name.
Thank you.
Congratulations. And it
Thank
felt so wholesome and beautiful to see you like
you.
with your baby, like no top here, just your baby skin to skin. That just felt. My daughter is 5 months, but I feel like it's been forever we've done that. So, yeah, anyway, it moved my heart to see you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Romina.
Yeah, and thank you, Krishantia, for being in the call and sharing. I've been longing to hear from you. I love you. Thank you for being here. Yeah, I remember the rebirth workshop. So it is me and Myrna sitting for breakfast, and I think it's like the last day. Yeah, it's the last day, and we are having breakfast. And I asked Myrna, like, I wonder why they never give that mic when they do the resonance prayer. Why they never give that to a woman? Like, aren't we talking about true mothers, mother's heart? And then Myrna said, that's a wonderful question. She said, I wonder how it would feel like in the room if like the women one by one took that loud prayer microphone. So, yeah, anyway, it's very beautifully said theoretically, like about women, but I still think we yet have to see the model where actually women are like running the show and like doing things, but yeah, we have theoretically we say so many things about mother's heart, and you know how we have to empower our women in the church and our sisters, but yeah, we yet have, I feel, to really experience deeply this environment created by women, like for serving everybody, like all people. um, I asked one time one pastor that I think they are very successful in our church, like, oh, like, why did you go, like, you guys are so amazing. I told them, like, why did you go all the way to that little city in the south, like, to build a church, like, why didn't you, like, and they're like, yeah, because there was nothing there, so we could actually make our dream happen. Like, make our dreams where we were just too much history, too many people, too much happening. And then I asked another pastor who I also think him and his wife are just so amazing. Like, I've created such a lovely community. And I'm like, oh man, like if you lived in a less expensive place, like at that time we just birthed Diana and we really wanted to go somewhere where there were like a lot of kids to raise our daughter and stuff like that. So I'm like, but it's really expensive to buy a home there, I was telling them. He's like, yeah, that was like one of the very few empty places we could go and build our dream church. So I hear like these people who are like building a community according to their dreams. They go where there's no nothing, So yeah, it is definitely. I can. It must have been so 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 difficult for mother this past decade, like to really like do things. Wow, I can't even imagine. I mean, it took us, and we are just in a small community of 50, 60 people, but when we became pastors here, it took us a couple of years to just create this unity and flow between the council and the pastor to just like support each other and know each other's role, like without like so imagine mother like a worldwide movement. So yeah, it must have been such a lonely place for her. And yeah, I feel for like, I feel for that loneliness she must have endured, and not very many, like always like with a lot of men with suits, and um yeah. And Damien has like shared with us like about mother lately and like how he experiences her. And forgive me, maybe I'm being like cynical here, but like that's how I feel in my heart. I'm like, I I wish there was another sister who went and met mother and like came and told us about mother, and not to become like about gender or stuff like that, but I also do feel like, yeah, like Damien like brings in all the fun stories, and like, mother is beautiful, mother wore this, mother wore that. I know he's trying like really to convey whatever he experienced, but in his eyes, he's also her son. Like he is looking at her like a son. And my mom was here with us, helping us for 3 months with my daughter. And her mom passed away in 2020, my grandmother. And my grandmother is such an amazing, extraordinary woman, actually. But she like spoke with her mother while she was here with so much deep compassion. Like she wished she could like make her one more meal. She wished she could keep her one more time at home. Like she felt so much regret, like not having served her mother more during her lifetime. And she would share those with me in tears, as if my mom was like a little girl who lost her mother. But here is my mom, like 57 years old, 56 years old, with her own adult children, longing to like really serve her mother who lived plenty, I mean, every nobody's ever old in terms of like doing, but she passed at 80, so I think she lived quite a bit wholesome life, like in terms of years. But here is my mom like longing so deeply, but none of her sons or my uncles has ever said that about their mom. you know, so there's something very, very, I think, special about that mother-daughter servitude and relationship that's really not conveyable easy by the sons. Like, yeah. So I yeah, I feel for true mother to not have had that many, maybe none for years, of women that are really understanding her heart and loving her and pledging in front of her. That must be so difficult for mother, like to have been a whole lifetime in the movement and not have felt that deep understanding from other women. Probably she has felt it from Japanese sisters being so like sublimely sworn to her parents. But again, having that personal one-on-one, like that kind of personal touch, like her being able to like give this kind of love and receive this kind of love. So one inspiring woman that really inspires me that what you can do in ministry is Joyce Meyers. I don't, maybe all of you know, or maybe you don't know, but I got to know about her a few years ago, Joyce Mears. And anyway, I used to think like only men build these powerful churches and stuff like that because they talk a lot and preach a lot and everything. But I mean, this lady Joyce Mears really yeah, because we don't hear our mother so vocal, right? Like only the last 10 years, maybe we know of speeches of mother, but when I joined like in 2010, but it's also always like very male-centered movement, our movement. So anyway, yeah, I was like, wow, what would have been if mother really like had this? Because as Joyce Meyer has been preaching for like 30 some years, like, you know, like really speaking her passion about God. And I'm like, yeah, how would have mother, like, how would have her passion impacted us if she would have equally like built us up as much as father did? Like, we'd have probably inherited a new culture or like a whole new like identity of like who we are. Like, but yeah. Um, Thank you so much. I appreciate you, Kayla, choosing these speeches. I think, yeah, I'm like like a scaredy cat kind of person many times. Like I admire people who just like go bam for like whatever they're feeling in their heart. I, um, I feel like I walk on eggshells many times, and I regret that later. Um, yeah, so I'm very like encouraged that true mother like needs me and like yeah, like she's talking to me like I'm like oh, like can I do this, or should I even say something, or should I do this, or am I like good enough to do this, you know, like this imposter syndrome, like oh yeah, like maybe I'm not good enough, maybe there's other women better than me that can do this. And it's really sad because I can feel sometimes like um yeah, like I'm like, because I do feel like everybody's like so precious in God's eyes, but then I feel like I have the same lacking of compassion for myself. From that perspective, you know, like it's so easy to like take away all blemishes from other people and be like, oh, but that's a child of God and it's okay. We all grow and we all make mistakes. But then when it comes to ourselves, it's like so easy to become like this accusatory person because you know all of your dark like whatever sides, or like you know like what you're not good at, or like how you're not always like this person you want to be. And so yeah, I think a lot of women, especially because they're more sensitive than men, I think they struggle with this to like not feel that they are as good as other people or like they can do it. So um yeah, I think that's something I personally struggle with. And I do feel encouraged by True Mother, but at the same time I also like doubt myself, like, oh, uh, yeah, can I do this, or can I do stuff like that? um, but anyway, I'm very encouraged to be with this group of people, group of women. Yeah, this is my last month I'm working, so it's like take away the identity of a job and the coolness you feel showing up to corporate America and like doing important projects. Like, you know, like you feel like self-worth through that. But then it's like if you take that away, like do you feel like really becoming bare naked and feeling like important children of God versus all this, yeah, layers and other things we try to become important through. So this is a very encouraging speech. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Romina. Yeah, Romina always, actually, when Romina talks, she's also been one of those who like, you're, you have such a divine passion too when you tap into it that just like shakes things up. And I've been so encouraged by you too, Romina. Just your desperate resonance to be with Mother. And I just wanted to acknowledge that I think similarly, the even in all the wonderful stories we're getting about Mother, there is the other aspect of these stories. And that's the whole point of what Mother's talking about, of Heavenly Parent, that Heavenly Mother's story has been missing and hidden behind Heavenly Father this whole time. So I think it's a natural feeling, and I think we're the ones to uncover that other half if we could be bold enough to do it. So yeah, just thank you, Romina. Yumi, did you raise your hand? Yeah.
Yeah, when you whisper. Yeah, it was just definitely moved by what Tasna shared. And thank you, Ramina, for sharing, and love to see you too, Sacha. Um, yeah, I was just reflecting and realized that um I've never met father, so I was looking at for true parents. I know my mom told me the first time I met mothers, I was 8 months, and the next time mother came to Kenya, I was 6 years. And I have Crescentia was talking about craziness. And I remember that first experience when mother came to Kenya. We had this performance and we were dancing. And at the end of the dance and celebration, and mother was leaving, I felt this urge to just chase mother's limo. And so the car was driving away, and something just said, go and get mother, just go. It's such a vivid memory. So I remember I ran after mother's vehicle, and I could hear people in the background were just like, is that Yumi running? Like, I could hear the voices of like uncles. And I know I chased that vehicle all the way until it went to the main road. And just before I touched it, I fell down and I scraped my knee really badly. So I was wearing like white stockings and I came back and I was trying not to show that I was limping, but I had this joy in my heart, like I almost touched the vehicle. So, but then I had to look like I was upset with myself. I was quite happy with my shoe. But I went back and my dad noticed that my stockings were torn and there was blood dripping down my knees, both knees. And he looked at me and he was like, Yumi, if that car would have reversed, you would have died. And in my head, I realized that was not my concern. My concern was I want to touch that vehicle. And I almost did. And that was I think I was 6. And then 13 when mother and Hyojin came to Kenya. And then after father passed away, I remember crying and asking God, why have I never got to meet father? And then this feeling was like, but you've met me. That's what came up. But I just was like, yeah, but everyone was crying for father. Father's passed away. And then at 19, I went for Chonigo blessing. I wasn't matched, but just before the event started, Reverend Shankar was like, do you have white outfits? I want you to give flowers to mother. And I was like, have you seen the gorgeous girls here? I barely have the right clothes to be. What do you mean, go and give flowers to mother? Reverend Shankar was like, go get dressed and come here and go give flowers to mother. And I was like, sure. Like, do you say no to that? And I remember shaking mother's hand and she held onto my hand and she looked at me. And she looked at me and like the brother was bowing. She didn't, I don't think she shook his hand. She just held onto my hand and she looked like she did this. And I looked at mother and we locked eyes. And in that moment, I remembered that saying of like, but you've met me. And I was thinking every time when mother was saying, pray to Heavenly Father, Heavenly Mother, every time I sit, like when I talk to God, I usually have this, I don't like pray, I sit and have a conversation and just tell God how I'm feeling. Every time when I feel like I'm in a difficult situation is when I pray to Heavenly Mother. And every time I say Heavenly Mother, it's Mother's image that comes to my head. And before I used to find it very weird because, it was before they're talking about Heavenly Mother. And I was like, why am I talking to Mother? It's like, I don't know her like that. Like, that she doesn't even know I exist. Like, why am I talking to, she's Mother. She's like over there at the front. We see her from behind the scenes. And when Mother said sharing about Heavenly Mother and having a personal relationship, and it just made me reflect and think like in different situations, like Mother is trying to call, like she may not say it to us individually, but she's saying I want you to step up. And I think for me that's like the reflection, like it's the scary part. It's like, what if what Mother is calling me to do, I don't hit the target? Like I don't want to fail her. Like if Mother says do this, like I want to step up and I want to step up to my fullest. Like I don't want to step up and just be like and do it haphazardly. I want to step up and say I'm doing this for Mother and I'm doing it to my best. And I feel for me that's where there's like a hesitation because I'm like, what if I'm not as qualified as Mother needs me to be? Because I can't show up to the world and if I'm walking out of my house and I'm representing True Mother, I want to make sure I look correct. I make sure that I am presenting myself properly. When I say, oh, this is an event, Dr. Haksha Hanmun is going to show up, I want to have the answers to the questions that people are going to ask me about her. I want to do it with I mean, all my life, my friends know I'm a unificationist. I've never hidden. They know. So it's like I tell my friends, I post on my Facebook, it's there. You find pictures of the blessing of Mother event. But I feel like what Mother is calling us to do requires a certain level of us to, like Crescentia was saying, like how can we not just like in the church, we have to do something. We have to shake the environment to create space because like we all feel like there's something that needs fixing, but we're just like, how, where, like we need to fix something, but like which parts do we move? Like how do we kick out some people so we can just, then you also don't want to just step up into a role and then not do the job. It's like we have to show up and show up, like really show up and do something. So when Mother says, I have my daughters and my sisters with me, I think maybe that's what moved me. When Mother said my sisters, as opposed to daughters. Daughters is more like, okay, yeah, she's daughter. But when somebody says that's my sister, it's like, ooh, there's a responsibility there. If it's your mom, you're like, ah, mom, you do your stuff. I'm gonna be at home. It's like with my sisters, it's like I need you with me. I can't do this alone. And for me, I think there's a scary bit there that Mother's called you her sister. She is a responsibility and accountability in that word, sister and like she needs us to realize that. And I feel like she tries and shows it every time whenever she brings Jonga, her granddaughter. I've never seen a grandma celebrate her granddaughter. I think she made a speech and she said like, I'm so happy it was a granddaughter, something like that. Like, but she said it in passing. I don't think it was. I think it was. She said it in passing, and I don't think people caught that. And I was just like, did she say what I think? Because in Korean culture, it's like you want a boy first. You want like have a son. Mother was like something like I don't know if she said Tahingda or like I'm glad it was a daughter that you have. And it made me feel like, oh my goodness, Mother is she's trying to tell us something. But how do we step up and measure up? Like we don't quite measure up yet, but how do we answer the call and do the job right? So we don't, like we create an environment so other people can step up with us. But yeah, that's just what's in my head. Just like how do I step up with your mother boldly and proudly while she's on earth? Like I don't want to do it when she's in spiritual. I want to do it when she's here, when she knows that halfway across the world her sisters are stepping up for her. Her daughters are stepping up for her. Her fellow mothers are stepping up with her. She's not alone. Yeah, maybe that yeah, I think that's what I'm gonna take the time to reflect on. How to step up.
Oh,
How
that
to
was
step.
great. You mean when you were sharing that insight of like, why didn't I ever meet Father? And then the response of like, but you met me. I got chills actually. I really felt like that was such a deep insight for the time that we're living in that we didn't understand back. It felt like a loss to not have met Father. We had a wrong understanding of true parents' identity. Yeah, really, really deep insight. Thank you, Rumi.
All right, I guess I'll share a little bit. It's so nice to hear from everyone. Yeah, I wasn't sure what to expect when I joined the call, but just listening to like the quotes, Kaylee, that you were reading, it was actually very healing. Because I feel like just on a very tiny scale, like, I kind of felt or could relate to what Trumella had to go through because the past few years, like, after I became a pastor, like COVID happened and we sold our building. So we were like nomads and just wandering. It felt like the wilderness. And it was so difficult. And there were many times I just felt like hopeless, like kind of like what Trumella was feeling. She just had to wait. The pain of just waiting and just having no choice but to wait patiently. And I feel like as parents, we have to do that many times. Like if our kids don't understand something, we have no choice but to teach them over and over and just wait. We can't force them to understand something. We can't make it go faster. And so I feel that like frustration from Trumella of just having to wait like the past 10 years, like telling her children, teaching us, but then just waiting. And so, yeah, I really feel like Trumella's heart there of just waiting. And then now finally, like some of us are catching it, the rebirth workshop. And it's interesting because I feel a similar shift this year. We finally bought a building last year and things have been moving a lot. I never wanted to think that once, we have a building, our community will like magically come together and there'd be more unity and whatnot, and more second gen would start showing up. That was the hope of a lot of people, but I never, kind of assumed that would happen. But it has created, a lot of new energy, new excitement. And for the longest time, I was just waiting. Like there were no young people like I could really depend on. I was just like the older generation, and they were very supportive. But like you were saying, there's something like that sisterhood or that brotherhood. And I remember it was after we came back from the Las Vegas event, and I invited like all the young people that went to come up on stage. And I was shocked. There were like 15 of us. And I was like, where did all these people come from? Like I didn't even realize. And so when Trumella was saying like, now that I see you, I realize I'm not alone. I felt that same kind of way, like, oh my gosh, like you guys are here now. And I truly felt it was because of True Mother. Like True Mother called everybody to Las Vegas. And I felt that because of that, like the young people, something was, they were responding to that. And so I was really grateful to True Mother. After that, I realized, okay, I'm not alone. And I felt a lot of comfort in that to be able to work with them. So this year I feel a lot more hope. And like you were saying, Kelly, kind of a shift in energy, and like I can finally feel more natural. It's more like fun, like we did a Hyojong family service and that was so much fun doing it with like fellow moms and my brothers and sisters, the younger people, creating something fresh and fun. So it's just interesting to have kind of that like experience that Trumella had, but on a very small scale. And then the last thing I think, as moms, we all feel the line where she said, this is not a time to remain a woman buried within a family. Because I think that's something I think about all the time too, when it gets too hard, I'm like, well, should I be doing this? Shouldn't I just be home and be more present with my kids and, you know, invest more in my family. Like my family is so chaotic sometimes. Why am I like trying to take care of a whole community? And, but you know, when I read these things from True Mother, I'm like, okay, yes, you know, I gotta pull it together. And I have to say, like, the last few months have given me more confidence, like as a woman, because when I see True Mother, what she's doing in Chomkyong, she's like creating Chonalguk, right? That's her goal. She always talks about, I want to create the actual, like, you know, settlement of Chonalguk. And I resonate with that a lot. I think women are so good at that, like creating the environment, like creating Chonalguk. That's where we like shine. And so I'm excited now we have a new building and there's so many ideas coming out. And I feel like, yeah, I have my own style of leading and like really listening to different people's, you know, opinions and like really wanting everybody to shine and contribute their talents. And so, yeah, I'm grateful the way True Mother's leading. I feel like I'm just like following her footsteps, right? The same way she's trying to build like Chonalguk there in Chomkyong. I'm like, okay, well, let me see what Chonalguk looks like in our community, you know, in Michigan. So anyways, I just feel really excited for this coming year. So that's it.
That's awesome, Nina. I love Crescentia's last comment here. She says, keep going. We need you just as you are, a chaotic mom. You know, I had you guys know Justin Okamoto is traveling with his family. And my experience with that was like, I guess his experience visiting our family, the most insightful thing was like our family culture. You know, they're sitting and having breakfast with us, and we're getting them ready to go out the door and go to school and get everything situated. And so to be in the throes of the chaos was I think the most meaningful part of it, to see David and I working as a team, how we interact with the kids and the love and how the kids help, you know, that kind of thing. And I was thinking, you know, Crescentia and Mari, we recently found this photo of our three couples leading one of those Aloha workshops that we did in America. And this photo, I should find it and show it to you because it's so funny. I mean, it's like such a long time ago. Mari only had two kids. Crescentia had one kid. I had one kid. I was very pregnant. And we led this ridiculous workshop with our kid, you know? But I remember, like looking at that photo, I remember the reflections from people that the most impactful part of that workshop was our families, that we did it as a family, that we had our kids running around, that it was chaotic. And sometimes like David wasn't there half the time because he was taking care of June and, you know, but I remember those reflections that actually that was the most impactful part of it. And it was ridiculous that we did that. It's ridiculous. But the point I'm just reflecting on is just like, the point about Justin is I was explaining that moms, I think is really beneficial in my relationship that we're a-traditional, right? He's not the leader, I'm the church leader. But it's a benefit to me because as a mom, I cannot compartmentalize my life. My family is always there in my brain, even if I'm on stage talking, even if I'm meeting somebody important. And it's not like that for men. They're built differently. But actually, it's a benefit for me because like I bring it all with me. And like Tasna was saying, we have to multitask constantly. And so I think just to your point, the environment, that's why, is because we can think about all the pieces. We never forget our motherhood identity. We never forget our children. And it actually makes things better because of that. So sorry, that turned into a second sharing, but you got me excited. So just wanted to bring that up.
I feel compelled
So
to
we have
just say, oh, Nina,
yeah.
I just really want to thank you, Nina, for pastoring through all of what you've gone through in your pastorship. This is probably, this season of pastoring is, I think, a tough one. It's a very tough one. So I deeply commend you for hanging in there, persevering, and having faith to keep going and see it through to what it can be now, where you're experiencing more of this like flow and energy, more fun, you know, connectedness with the members of your community. And I just really admire and appreciate your service and your pastorship. So thank you.
Thank you, Crescentia. You're the pioneer, you know. I saw you doing it, so I was like, okay, maybe I can do it too. So it's really thanking you.
Uh, I'm glad. Thank you.
Mhm. So we have just a few more ladies. I don't want to put pressure on anybody to share. And Hannah, I know you came late and you're probably sad about that. But you can watch the recording later. But I'm sure you have something to share, knowing you and your heart. So yeah, if any of the other ladies want to share, feel free to unmute. Otherwise, we can wrap it up.
Hey, good to see you all. Yeah, bummed I missed out. The intention was for me to be there, but my son ended up really needing me, a full-blown meltdown. Um, Thanks for holding space for me. I don't think I'm at the best place right now. Can I have like 5 minutes and then I'll put her down. Whew. Yeah, just guys, you ladies made me cry seeing your hearts and your determination and your kind of like doing stuff kind of place in your life. And I didn't hear what the speech was, but I had a few thoughts. We're recently listening to this book called Reclaiming Childbirth as a Rite of Passage. And you know, it's written from a modern feminist perspective. So sometimes it's like to really be careful about what kind of energy I'm getting myself into, because it's like get really heated. So I was just sort of like trying to realign myself as I'm reading this book, because there's a part of me that's like, but this is like sort of revealing a lot of suffering in women's history. And you know, calling it, there's one of the chapters in the book is called Her Story, and you know, instead of history, which totally came from Women's Fed first. Um but yeah, I felt like there was a lot for me to receive from it, and then having to align myself with Mother's heart as I'm reading it, because I know that the point's not just to blame men. But as I was reading, a few things struck me. One is like, you know, shifting culture from like a tribal kind of culture to like, you know, then it became like owning land, and then there was the monarchy, and then it was, you know, just like how it progressed, like the Industrial Revolution and how that affected the way people live. And but like going back to like how paring it down to like this tribal setting. And it was one interesting thing was like women weren't the only ones taking care of children. There was like women would take care of the babies, but the parents, the husbands or the fathers or the dads would take care of the children that walked. It's like there's this sense that like we need to do it all. So as you guys are sharing, Mother's saying like, don't get, you know, fall behind the whatever piles of laundry and dishes and stuff. And it just feels like, because there's a sense of like having to do it all, and there's like, because we're women and we can do it all. But I just sort of reflected on like, well, maybe there's another way. Not like in a creative way, and I think it comes from women and inviting men into that role. Yeah, anyway, it's kind of a random thought, but it made me kind of reflect on that as you guys are sharing. because we all know that the way that things are right now for moms and for women and for families is just like does not work. This sort of like I'm by myself running the whole household. Like it just doesn't work. And getting out of that is really hard. So I just wonder about what mother thinks, and like knowing that mother didn't raise her own kids. Sometimes I'm like, oh, like, but I think I've started to come to peace with it, the sense of like, maybe that was never mother's role. And maybe that's not what women are about. Like coming from what mother's coming from, women are not about like, so I'm like, okay, mother, tell me, how do I do sleep with my children? How do I do, education? How do I do, what food do I give them? What's the right way to feed your children? Like, you should tell me, mother. And then I realized like, oh, that wouldn't be the heart of Heavenly Mother. Because if you like write the book about all the things, that's not what it's about. It's about like, can you, do you know who you are? Do you know who your children are? Can you navigate this? Can you trust yourself? And if we don't have that alignment, then it becomes like, oh, that mom's doing this and I'm doing this. And like, that whole culture that's not healthy. But so I was just kind of wondering, like, maybe mother wanted it that way. Like, and then, what mother's talking about now is like using her creativity to come up with solutions. Like, yeah. So anyway, I was thinking about that. And then, last point is I was praying as I'm reading this book. I'm like, mother, I'm fired up about this. Why is everything so messed up for women? And, blah, 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 and like wondering like, yeah. And then it sort of struck me that like, oh, a lot of where I'm at in my life is as a result of my relationship with my parents and the way that they lacked in terms of being able to come together and raise a family and therefore raise up me. And so, there's a part of me that's really not a part of me, the whole of me is healing through that, and seeing it more and more for what it is, and more anger coming up and more pain coming up. And then sat down and I realized like mother didn't have unconditional love from her mother. Mother didn't really have a father present. And there was a part of me, previously that just sort of like, well, because she's true mother. And then I realized like, oh, that wasn't according to plan. That wasn't like mother missed out. Like there's this part of me that's like, and I'm never going to get my childhood back, like, how do I come to terms with that? And then I realized like mother's never going to get a childhood. And in this book, they talk about like how so much has been taken from women from their bodies, right? Like periods are gross and like hush hush, and like childbirth is just totally like become this weird system of how we get babies out of our bodies that's totally not really connected to our instincts and trusting our bodies. And when you hit menopause, you feel like your identity stripped from you, and like you're less, the young women that aren't married and don't have children are like idealized, like everything's backwards. And I realized like sort of wanting to turn to mother and ask like, well, how do you feel about body image after having like 14 children? Because I'm struggling after 2. And like, getting, realizing like, oh, it's because it's all backwards. And like, I'm not a maiden anymore. I'm a mother. And like, that's something to celebrate, and anyway, I'm kind of long-winded here, but my point is like, there's this really beautiful, traditionally when women got their periods, they would celebrate. they would have this like ritual around it, and all the women would get together, and it's like a sisterhood, and mothers coming together, and like how beautiful, like you're becoming a woman, like you're now a maiden, and like this is what this time of your life is. It's a time where you have so much energy, and it's time of spring. And anyway, and I was just like, I want to create that for my daughter, and we need to write books about this, and like children's books about like how to like help women, girls not just understand the biology, but like the significance of the beauty of what God is giving us through our bodies. And then I realized like, oh, mother didn't have that either. Like, and I bet she always wanted a sisterhood. And she seems so unreachable for us. But I bet she didn't want that. So, okay, I gotta put my daughter down. But I think that's all.
Thank
Thank
you,
you, Hannah.
Hannah. Yeah, my husband, whenever it's hi, so cute. Whenever my period comes, he used to always make this joke like, we should bake you a cake. Because somehow he has this, good idea around what it means. And you don't feel like baking a cake when that happens, right?
Yeah, it should be red with red frosting. You cut into it and it like bleeds like a cherry, like bleeds out.
Oh my God. Wow, what an image.
It makes
A beautiful connection.
well, it just makes me think because my girls see when I have my period, the girls see the red and they're like asking me about it, and I'm trying to explain because they're like, "Mom, you're bleeding." It's like, this is
Yeah.
yucky. This is gross. Like, why is this happening to you? And I don't want it to be a bad thing for them because they're gonna have it for most of their life. So they're like, don't worry, you don't have to deal with this yet. But I came up with a line, and I find it very empowering, which is like, because I bleed once a month, I could have you guys,
Yeah.
because God gives me this. This allows me to have babies. And even though I'm not going to be having babies anymore, I'm so glad I have this because it's allowed me to have you. And it kind of like takes something that is, and that's so true for so much of what we experience as women, that's like a suffering, and it gives it that deeper meaning. And it's just interesting, right? That this is God's pattern somehow. That like for women, we have to endure difficult things for the sake of the greater good that only we get to experience.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
want
Hannah,
to
even
say
like,
sorry.
oh, go ahead.
There's like, oh, sorry, I'm feeding my baby. But so, did you know that scientifically, I read when you carry a daughter in your womb, she also has all the eggs she'll have in a lifetime. So you're carrying like your daughter and granddaughter, potentially, whoever of those eggs will become a baby. But anyway, I was
Wow.
thinking when mother said that don't stand anymore like daughters, but like mothers. I was thinking that we don't know it or we don't think about it, but God has instilled in us this ability to think like generations ahead and to impact by changing ourselves and our dynamic in our own body, also our baby and our baby's baby. So like if one woman decides to step up and change herself and change like become more ideal and closer to Heavenly Mother's heart, then she has automatically impacted her kids and kids. So, and man can't claim that, I think. So, yeah, anyway, just wanted to share that since we're at this topic of eggs and periods. And
Yeah, I could go on forever talking about this topic. But one last thought is like so much about being a woman is defined by our bodies. And in it what I mean, it's sort of, if you were to boil that down, it's about trusting your bodies. And so therefore it's about really like trusting what your body's telling you, people call it trusting your gut. That's a very different approach to life. It's like this is how I feel, not like, oh, I'm feeling like really emotional, and so I'm making a decision based on that. But it's like, this is how if I'm substantially grounded in myself and in my body, this is what comes to me. Versus like, the way that things have been so far in our church, but just as society as a whole, is like, well, let's think about it. What's the best? Let's make a plan, like let's do some research, like, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I just, God just is reminding me that women are just so different, and there's such a power in that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you, not only do you carry your daughter's eggs while you're pregnant, you exchange cells. So like your cells go to your baby cells, which eventually go to your daughter's cells. You're like giving you like your literal DNA, not your fraction DNA, but like your whole DNA ends up in
Yeah.
your daughter's body.
Well, I mean, I think that is, we were reading, one of the quotes we read is about like how children inherit 99.99% from their mothers. And I think a lot of it has to do with that, the fact that we carry children in our womb. And so physically, the exchange is so much more significant. And in that first year of life, right, it's really mostly mom who has to care for the baby. So everything is the mother. And I was asking David about it because I was like, this came up at the rebirth workshop. What do you think it means, right? Like, as a man, how does that make you feel? Are you useless? Are you worthless? But I think that was the conclusion we came to, is that it is, if God is, if we are a reflection of God, then the same process happened for this Heavenly Mother side of God, that we spent more time in Heavenly Mother's womb, exchanging our spiritual DNA with Heavenly Mother in that first, in our birthing, right? It's spiritually. So it's the whole unraveling of Heavenly Mother and Heavenly Parent and true mother's role is like not just half the story, it's like 99.999% of the story that has not been told in history. And I think that's where the frustration comes, that you feel it. Women feel it. We feel like, no, you guys aren't getting it. Like, you're not getting how significant this is, because it is 99.99% of the story. So, yeah, anyways, I just wanted to add that on there. Mari, did you unmute? Did you want to share?
Yeah, just a little bit. So just one thing, a couple of things, based partly on the reading, but also part of what everyone has been sharing, just to kind of build on, because a lot of what you shared were things that were on my heart too. One thing that, I'm sorry, is it Hannah or Hannah?
Hannah.
Okay,
I've asked you that a million times.
about the intuition and your gut, right? And really being in our body. For me, through all my study and all my reflection and prayer, one of the things that I feel is part of the final frontier that we have to overcome is womankind remembering who we are and being able to trust and act on our intuition. That's what was one of the things lost in the fall, right? That was one of the byproducts, that we can no longer trust ourselves and we begin to doubt. And that became a deep-seated part of our lineage as women, right? Of who we are. So one of the things that I feel is going on right now is that it's so important as womankind, as sisterhood, as the daughters of our true mother, is that we grab onto and hold onto our intuition, even if it seems crazy or people tell us not to, or we feel that we shouldn't. Like, as long as we're rooted in the word and rooted in God, that's how God is speaking to us. And so it's so important, I feel, for us to reclaim that. And in that, reclaiming our value. So as soon as we start listening to our intuition, we're really saying, God, I see you in me. I know I'm valuable, not because of what I do, but because of who I am, your daughter, right? So that's one aspect of it. The other aspect I wanted to put forth, like Hannah, I really resonate with you in the whole not getting bogged down by laundry and like daily life, right? That there's more. But I also have another like kind of take on it as well, and that is that I think it's more than just not getting bogged down by the day to day. I feel that it's about really seeing the day to day for what it is and offering it to God. Like if we truly saw like, hey, I'm doing this laundry and it's not about me doing laundry. It's about me doing laundry to take care of God's children. I'm raising up this next generation of future leaders that are going to impact the world. Because actually one of the greatest things we could do as moms is raise up good, God-loving children. And that's actually one of the hardest things we're going to do. It's like leading is hard. Like I've been there on so many different levels. It is so hard to serve God and true parents on the, as pastors, as leaders. It is so terribly hard. But it's just as hard to make sure we raise up the next generation, because that's what has been lost too, right? The next generation has been lost generation after generation. And even right now, when you're asking, hey, where is this generation of 40 and 50-year-olds, second generation? Now they're beginning to say, where are the 30 to 40-year-olds, And so I guess I'm just bringing that up is because it's like, if God's calling you, if you're where you're supposed to be is raising your family, and this is like to all womankind, right? It's like where we are called to be is raising our family. It's very important to honor that, respect that, and offer it up to God and see the God in every little action, every nose we wipe, every meal we cook. We're not just cooking for our family, we're cooking for the lineage of God. Um, and that's not to say that I guess what I want to emphasize, like that's what God's calling you to do, right? Because God may be calling us to do so many different things. Every calling is so important and so needed. There's not one calling that's more important than the other. We're all needed together to follow our God-given intuition and calling. And if we all follow our God-given intuition and calling and respect other people's God voice, right? I mean, I think that's where the sweet part is of peace, and the sweet part is of building each other up and creating a culture shift. Because we're all embodiments of God and we all have different roles to play. So anyways, I'm just sharing that in the sense of that we're all so incredibly valuable. God loves us so much and he needs us to honor that, and she needs us to honor that and recognize our value in how we're being called, not in how we think we should be serving. Thank you. Thank you everyone for all your sharing. It was very moving. Yeah, and I'm just so glad I was able to hear it all, because my daughter also was having a meltdown during most of the call as well. And she finally fell asleep just in time so that I could also share a little bit too. But I love you all, and you are all so amazing. Thank you for sharing your hearts.
Thank you, Mari. That was really beautiful. And I just want to say that I love that these calls have breastfeeding and diaper change and meltdown kids in the background, and it's like this is motherhood or sleeping kids next to you. I just love that because that's the kingdom of heaven. It isn't a separation between thinking publicly, thinking about your parents, wanting to support the providence and our families. There shouldn't be that separation. It should be integrated. I think we're building that culture right here, right now, even on Zoom. So even that is really a victory to claim. So, ladies, we've been going almost 2 hours, and usually I like to try to wrap it up around 2 hours. That's what I expect from this call always, because there's so much wonderful wisdom. But just want to, in the last few minutes, if there's anything on anybody's heart that they really just feel like they want to say before we close, I just want to open up the floor one more time.
I think one day you should send this recording to Mother. She'd love it.
You have
literally
to do
what
a
I was
lot of
thinking.
translation, Yumi. Are you volunteering to translate
I
all of
will
it?
do the translation if it gets too much, I will do the translation.
That'd be amazing. That'd be the
Yeah.
most, this would be the most unique transcript that your mother would ever receive.
What?
Periods and eggs.
It's like period blood and all these different
Yeah.
things.
Cake that
And she'll probably be
symbolizes
like, yeah.
No,
But I
I
sometimes
was
think
thinking,
about that. I think about how, like, mother, do you even know?
Yeah.
Because like, I'm sure she understands in some deep way that we maybe won't ever comprehend, but like, just like culture and I don't know. I feel like, I don't know,
I
in her disfavor by not, I
I
don't know.
can share. mm, mm, My husband's bath firm is one of mother's friends, which is weird to say because I didn't. She was telling, my father-in-law was telling me, he was like, they had this experience when they're in Brazil, many years ago, the Jardim workshop with families, and my father-in-law was looking for his wife because they had 4 kids at the time and they were in Brazil, and he was like, we have to get them to, like get them to eat dinner and have them take a shower and go to sleep with the other kids. And so he was trying to look, and then as he was waiting, father walks up to him, and father says, "Are you looking for your wife? She's with mine. Don't wait for her." So he said, so he was just like, because my father-in-law was working at East Garden as security, so he looked at father like, he says he's never had those like very personal, interactions. It's usually like you're doing your job and then you go back home, and father was just like, "You're looking for your wife. She's with mine. She's not coming anytime soon. So you do what you need to do." And he said in that moment, it hit him like, wait, mother has friends? And so, and I asked the mother-in-law, I was like, when mother comes to his garden, do you guys hang out? She was like, yeah, we do. I was like, what do you talk about? Stuff. I was like, I need to know. But it made me realize that we forget that mother is also, she also craves these personal relationships. Like it for me, it's just in a sense like humanized. Like I see when I was in Champion, right, I would see her walking with Mrs. McDavid, and I see them talking, but I'm always like, is it like a friendship or is it like a business? But like when you hear, somebody who's close to you saying like, "Oh yeah, we just hung out and we chat," and I'm just like, what is mom talking? Because I'm pretty sure it's not providential stuff. She's just having a gal chat. It made me feel happy that at least mother has people who she can call
Yeah.
friends. And I'm sure she'd be happy to like see a group of, ladies just have that kind of connection. Because I'm sure in her position it must be hard for us to find people who you trust who can get you and energy, and not somebody who would just revere you, but somebody who sees you answering your call, but also is willing to see the human side of like, hey, this is hard and you're not alone. So, Hannah, I'm sure mother, at least I know she has one friend.
Well, and then on this point, I mean, it is helpful for me. I do try to make reports, right? But when I can have testimonies from people, it's much more impactful, and those stories make go a long way. So yeah, I want to encourage everybody, like if you have deep insights or experiences or things like that, please send them my way because I do make reports. The reporting form I have to use in Women's Fed sucks and I hate it, but I'm starting to just break the mold and be like, look, here's my report. Here's what I think matters. But I want to, I've thought about how to report about the new wave. So the testimonies, I have pulled some quotes and things like that, but just putting it out there that your story, your voice, your testimony really, really matters, and I want to collect them. So feel free to send it as those things come up.
Mhm.
Okay, ladies. Well, we are almost exactly at the 2 hour mark, and I want to let everyone go. I will put the recording out for those who came late and those who weren't able to come. So much good wisdom, deep insight came from this, and thank you for everyone for sticking through. So I love you guys. Essential looks like she has something to say.
Can you also send your PowerPoint, Kayla? I really wanted to have those words to look back on if you can.
Yeah. I definitely can. Yeah, thanks for asking that. I'll put both in the group so everybody can have access. Okay, thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
Love you. Thank
This was
you.
lovely. Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Bye.
Night. God bless.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
Michelle.